Fleet Admiral Vex 9000 adjusted his bio-suit nervously as he stared at the massive display screen aboard the Galactic Alliance's Pride, the surveillance vessel, Silent Observer. 27 years of military service, and he had never seen anything quite like this. "Sir, the anomaly is still approaching," reported Lieutenant Calla Prime, her voice carrying that peculiar tremor that only came from witnessing something that shouldn't exist. "To the Kepler system border. 12 standard hours." Vex 9000's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a nervous habit he'd developed during the Zephyrian Wars. The thing on the screen defied every known principle of starship design. It was massive, bigger than anything in their databases, and it moved with a grace that suggested technology far beyond their understanding. "How big did you say it was again?" he asked, though he already knew the answer would make his stomachs churn. "Approximately 47 kilometers in length, sir. Width varies between 12 and 15 kilometers. Aus. Calla Prime paused, checking her readings twice. "The mass readings are, well, they're impossible." "Define impossible," Vex 9000 said, his voice carrying that dry tone he'd perfected after dealing with too many junior officers who thought impossible was a relative term. "The ship appears to have the mass of a small moon, sir, but it's moving at 0.75 light speed. The energy requirements alone should have torn it apart." She looked up from her console, her pale blue skin shifting toward a worried green. Either their technology is centuries ahead of ours, or physics has taken a vacation. The Admiral's laugh was about as warm as a neutron star. "Oh, wonderful. Just wonderful. And here I was hoping for a quiet patrol duty before retirement." "Sir, incoming transmission from High Command," announced Communications Officer Zara Beta, his tentacles dancing across his console with practiced efficiency. "They want a full report on the, what did they call it? The really big scary thing that shouldn't exist." "Those were their exact words?" Vex 9000 asked. "I may have paraphrased slightly, sir." The Admiral sighed, a sound that somehow managed to convey both resignation and annoyance. "Put me through to command. And someone get me a stimulant. Is strong stuff. The kind that makes you see colors that don't exist." As Zara Beta established the connection, Lieutenant Calla Prime cleared her throat. "Sir, there's something else. The ship, it's not just big. The scans are showing weapon signatures that we can't classify, energy readings that spike off our charts, and sir, yes, it's heading straight for the diplomatic station on Kepler 4. Vex 9000 felt his blood pressure spike. Kepler 4 hosted the largest interspecies diplomatic conference in the sector. Representatives from 43 different species were currently debating trade agreements and territorial disputes. It was, in essence, the worst possible place for an unknown supership to make an unannounced visit. "Oh, this just keeps getting better," he muttered. "Zara Beta, are we connected to command yet?" "Yes, sir, putting you through now." The holographic image of Grand Admiral Thex Superior materialized in front of Vex 9000, his usual expression of mild irritation replaced by something approaching panic. Thex Superior was a Calaxian, which meant he had 3 heads and a tendency to argue with himself during stressful situations. "Vex 9000, please tell me you have good news," said the left head. "Define good," replied the middle head before Vex 9000 could speak. "Oh, shut up," snapped the right head. "Sirs," Vex 9000 interrupted, "I have a ship of unknown origin, unknown technology, and unknown intentions heading directly toward our most important diplomatic station. The good news is, well, there isn't any." All 3 heads focused on him simultaneously, which was always unsettling. "How unknown are we talking here?" asked the left head. "Unknown enough that I'm starting to question everything I thought I knew about space travel," Vex 9000 replied. "The ship is massive, heavily armed, and moving faster than anything our size should be able to move. We're dealing with either a completely new species or what?" demanded the middle head. "Or someone has made a technological leap that makes the rest of us look like we're still banging rocks together." The right head made a noise that sounded like a cross between a growl and a sigh. Any attempts at communication? We've tried every frequency, every protocol, every greeting in our database. Nothing. Complete radio silence. Vex 9000 paused, though there is one thing. Our linguist, specialist KX12, thinks she detected some kind of transmission pattern, very faint, almost like background chatter. What kind of chatter? The kind that suggests whoever is on that ship is, well, they seem to be having a casual conversation about something they find mildly amusing. The three heads exchanged glances. Mildly amusing? Asked the left head. Yes, sir. According to KX12's analysis, the tone suggests they're discussing us in the same way one might discuss a particularly interesting cloud formation. Curious, but not concerned. They're not taking us seriously, said the middle head. Worse, added the right head, they don't think we're worth taking seriously. X 9000 nodded grimly. That would be my assessment, yes. Lieutenant Calla Prime suddenly straightened at her console. Sir, the ship is changing course. Explain. It was heading directly for Kepler 4. Now it's heading directly for us. The bridge fell silent, except for the gentle hum of life support systems and the nervous clicking of Zara Beta's tentacles. Vex 9000 felt that familiar sensation of impending doom that had served him well throughout his military career. Time to intercept. At current speed, 4 hours 17 minutes. Wonderful. Just enough time to compose my resignation letter and update my will. He turned to face the crew, battle stations. And someone wake up our best negotiator. If we're about to make first contact with a superior alien species, I want someone who can apologize for our existence in at least 12 different languages. As the alarm klaxons began to sound throughout the ship, Specialist KX12, a spider-like arachnoid with expertise in xenolinguistics, had scuttled onto the bridge carrying a data pad and looking more excited than terrified. Kinda last. Admiral, I've been analyzing those transmissions, she said, her voice carrying the particular enthusiasm that scholars got when they discovered something that could either win them awards or get them killed. I think I know what they're saying. Please tell me it's greetings. We come in peace and not prepare for annihilation, inferior beings. X-12's mandibles clicked in what passed for nervous laughter among her species. Well, sir, it's neither. Near as I can translate, they seem to be saying something like, look at those cute little ships, should we say hello? Or would that scare them? Vex 9000 blinked all four eyes in sequence. They think we're cute? That's the general impression. Yes, sir. And they're worried about scaring us? Apparently so. The Admiral looked around his bridge at the crew, all of whom were staring at him with expressions ranging from confusion to mild hysteria. So let me get this straight. We have a ship the size of a small city, armed with weapons we can't identify, crewed by beings who apparently view us as adorable pets, and they're approaching us because they want to make sure they don't hurt our feelings? That would appear to be an accurate summary, sir. And here I thought this day couldn't get any stranger. Vex 9000 rubbed his temples where a headache was beginning to form. KX12, can you transmit a message back to them? I can try, sir. What would you like me to say? Tell them that we appreciate their concern for our emotional well-being, but we would very much like to know who they are and what they want. I'll do my best, sir, but their language structure is unlike anything in our databases. It's almost like they're using humor as a grammatical element. Humor? Yes, sir. Every sentence seems to have at least 3 layers of meaning, one of which is invariably sarcastic. Lieutenant Calla Prime looked up from her console again. Sir, they're slowing down. How much? They've dropped to sub-light speed. Still approaching, but they seem to be giving us time to prepare. Prepare for what? But, unknown, sir. Vex 9000 was beginning to understand why his predecessor had taken early retirement to become a mushroom farmer on a quiet agricultural world. Zara Beta, open a channel to all ships in the system. Let them know we're about to make contact with unknown aliens who apparently think we're adorable and are polite enough to slow down so they don't accidentally vaporize us with their engine wash. Sir, should I phrase it exactly like that? Use your judgment. May. Just make sure everyone knows that we're dealing with beings who are either incredibly advanced and benevolent, or incredibly advanced and playing with us the way a child plays with insects. Which do you think it is, sir? Asked Kala Prime. Vex 9000 looked at the massive ship on the display screen, its sleek lines and impossible proportions making it look more like a work of art than a military vessel. Honestly, I'm hoping for benevolent, because if they're just playing with us, we're about to find out what it feels like to be on the wrong end of a cosmic joke. Kix 12 suddenly clicked her mandibles excitedly. Sir, I'm getting another transmission. This one is different. Different how? It's in our language. Perfect grammar. Correct pronunciation. They're asking if we'd like to have a conversation. They learned our language. Just like that? Appears so, sir. They're also apologizing for taking so long to figure out our communication protocols. They say they were distracted by how, and I quote, unexpectedly charming our ship designs are. The Admiral looked around his bridge again, taking in the standard Alliance design with its functional gray walls, blinking lights, and utilitarian furniture. They think this is charming? Apparently they find our aesthetic quaintly primitive but endearing. I don't know whether to be insulted or flattered. Sir, interrupted Zara Beta, they're requesting permission to approach for peaceful contact. They're also asking if we need any assistance with repairs or supplies. Repairs? What makes them think we need repairs? According to their message, they're concerned about some minor hull stress fractures and suboptimal engine efficiency they detected during their scans. Vex 9000 looked at his engineering readouts. Everything showed green across the board. Kala Prime, run a full diagnostic on our hull integrity. After a few moments, she looked up with a puzzled expression. Sir, they're right. We have microfractures in sections 7 through 12. They're so small our sensors didn't detect them, but they could become serious problems in a few months. They can scan us more accurately than we can scan ourselves? Apparently so, sir. The Admiral took a deep breath and made the kind of decision that would either go down in history as the beginning of a new era of interspecies cooperation, or as the moment the Galactic Alliance accidentally invited their own conquerors to tea. Zara Beta, send them a response. Tell them we accept their offer of peaceful contact. We appreciate their concern for our ship's condition, and we're looking forward to meeting them. Also, ask them what they'd like us to call them. Message sent, sir. The response came back almost immediately. They say we can call them humans, and they're from a species that apparently just figured out how to build really big spaceships. They're also asking if we know any good restaurants in the area, because space travel makes them hungry. Vex 9000 stared at the display screen for a long moment, watching the massive human vessel approach with the casual confidence of a species that had never met anything they couldn't handle. Kix 12, I want you to start working on a full linguistic analysis. Kala Prime, prepare detailed scans of their ship, but be discreet about it, and Zara Beta. Yes, sir. Find out if the station on Kepler 4 has any restaurants that serve food suitable for carbon-based life forms. Something tells me we're about to host the most important dinner party in galactic history. As the human ship drew closer, its sheer size becoming more apparent with each passing minute, Vex 9000 couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Whether for better or worse remained to be seen, but one thing was certain. The galaxy had just become a much more interesting place. And somewhere in the back of his military-trained mind, a small voice whispered that perhaps, just perhaps, the human's casual confidence wasn't misplaced. After all, you didn't build ships that big unless you were very sure you could back up whatever statements they made. The thought was both reassuring and terrifying in equal measure. 3 hours later, Fleet Admiral Vex 9000 stood in the main docking bay of his ship, but trying to look dignified while simultaneously fighting the urge to run screaming in the opposite direction. The human vessel, now identified as the U.S. Overkill, had graciously reduced its size for docking purposes by deploying what they called a shuttle. The shuttle was roughly the size of Vex 9000's entire command deck. "Sir, they're requesting permission to board," announced Lieutenant Calla Prime through his communication device, her voice carrying that particular strain that came from watching physics take a coffee break. "They've also sent over a preliminary gift exchange manifest." "Oh, what now?" "Now, apparently it's customary for their species to bring gifts during first contact situations. They're asking if we have any dietary restrictions, cultural taboos, or allergies to," let me read this correctly, awesome stuff. Vex 9000 closed his eyes and counted to 10 in 3 different languages. Did they actually use the phrase awesome stuff? "Yes, sir. They've also included a note apologizing for the informal nature of their communication, but apparently their diplomatic corps is still figuring out how to talk fancy to space aliens without sounding pretentious. Grant them permission to board. And somebody find our ceremonial welcome mat, the one without the stains." The docking process took another hour, primarily because the human shuttle required recalibrating their entire docking system. Apparently, human engineering operated on the principle that if something could be made bigger, it probably should be. When the airlock finally cycled open, Vex 9000 got his first look at the species that had just casually redefined his understanding of spacefaring capability. They were remarkably ordinary. Captain Sarah Martinez stepped through the airlock with the kind of confident stride that suggested she'd done this sort of thing before, followed by 2 crew members carrying what appeared to be gift baskets. She was tall by galactic standards, but not unusually so, with brown hair tied back in a practical ponytail and wearing a uniform that somehow managed to look both professional and comfortable. "Admiral Vex 9000, I presume," she said, extending her hand in what his cultural database identified as a human greeting gesture. "Captain Sarah Martinez, United Earth Ship Overkill. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We were starting to worry we'd accidentally scared everyone away." Vex 9000 grasped her hand, noting the surprising firmness of her grip. "Captain Martinez, welcome aboard the Silent Observer. I must admit, your ship has generated considerable interest among our command structure." Sarah's grin was infectious. "Yeah, we get that a lot. The Overkill tends to make an impression. We're still working on the whole subtle approach thing, but our engineers keep insisting that if we're going to build a ship, we might as well build it right." "And by right, you mean big enough to carry everything we might possibly need, fast enough to get there before anyone expects us, and tough enough to handle whatever we find when we arrive." She gestured to her crew members. "This is Lieutenant Commander Jake Thompson, our chief engineer, and Dr. Elena Vasquez, our xenobiologist and cultural specialist." Thompson stepped forward with a basket that smelled remarkably appetizing. "We brought food," he announced cheerfully. "Figured that's probably a universal icebreaker. We've got everything from chocolate to coffee to something Elena insists is called space jerky, though I'm pretty sure she made that up." Dr. Vasquez rolled her eyes. "It's dehydrated protein bars, Jake. I just thought space jerky sounded more exotic." She turned to Vex 9000. "We also brought some cultural exchange materials, music, art, literature, and a complete database of human cooking shows, because apparently that's how we communicate best." Vex 9000 felt his confusion deepening. "Cooking shows? You'd be surprised how much you can learn about a species by watching them prepare food," Sarah explained. "Plus, they're entertaining. We figured if we're going to make friends with the neighbors, we should probably start with the fun stuff." "The neighbors?" asked Calla Prime, who had joined them in the docking bay. "Well, yeah. Earth is pretty new to the whole interstellar community thing, but from what we can tell, this part of the galaxy is pretty well established. We're basically the new family moving into the neighborhood. and we wanted to introduce ourselves properly. Specialist QX-12 scuttled forward, her mandibles clicking with excitement. Captain Martinez, if I may ask, how did your species achieve faster than light travel so quickly? Our records show no previous contact with human civilization. Sarah's expression grew slightly sheepish. About that, we may have had a slight advantage. See, about 50 years ago, we found this crashed ship on our moon. Nobody was in it. But we managed to reverse engineer some of the technology. Took us half a century to figure out how it worked, and by the time we did, we'd improved on it considerably. The aliens exchanged glances. A crashed ship? Vex 9000 asked carefully. Yeah, small thing. Probably a scout vessel, or maybe a research probe. We never did figure out who built it. But we wanted to find them and say thanks. That's actually why we're out here. We built the overkill to go looking for whoever gave us our first step into space. Dr. Vasquez pulled out a small device and projected a holographic image of the crashed vessel. Vex 9000 recognized it immediately. Gin. That's a Zephyrian exploration pod, breathed Cala Prime. They've been missing for decades. Ginat asked. Bife Nation, in lie delices nai. Zephyrian? Sarah asked, her eyes lighting up. Are they still around? We'd love to meet them. Captain, Vex 9000 said slowly, the Zephyrians are considered one of the most technologically advanced species in the galaxy. Their exploration pod would contain technology that most civilizations couldn't even begin to understand. Oh, we understood it just fine, Thompson interjected cheerfully. Took us a while, but humans are pretty good at figuring out how things work. We just had to think bigger. Bigger? Well, their little ship was obviously designed for efficiency and stealth. Great for exploration, but not so good for hauling cargo or defending yourself. So we took their basic principles and scaled them up, way up. Sarah nodded. The overkill is basically what happens when humans find alien technology and ask themselves, but what if it was enormous and had really big guns? How big? Asked Vex 9000, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know. Our main forward cannon could probably punch a hole through a small moon, Thompson said proudly. Not that we've tested it on any moons, we're not monsters. Just small moons? QX-12 asked faintly. Well, we didn't want to be irresponsible about it. Dr. Vasquez cleared her throat. What Jake isn't mentioning is that we also equipped the ship with full manufacturing capabilities, medical facilities, recreational areas, and enough supplies to keep a crew of 5,000 comfortable for about 10 years. We figured if we were going exploring, we might as well be prepared for anything. 5,000 crew members? Vex 9000 felt his headache returning, give or take. We also have a full diplomatic corps, scientific research teams, cultural exchange specialists, and what our captain likes to call the guys who handle the weird stuff. The weird stuff. Sarah grinned. You know, first contact situations, alien technology, unexplained phenomena, that sort of thing. Space is big and full of surprises. We wanted to make sure we were ready for whatever we might find. And what have you found so far? Well, you guys, for starters. And you're much more interesting than we expected. Your ship designs are fascinating, your communication protocols are surprisingly sophisticated, and your cultural diversity is remarkable. We've been monitoring local transmissions, and the variety of species in this sector is incredible. You've been monitoring our transmissions? Cala Prime asked. Just the public ones. Dr. Vasquez assured her quickly. We're not in the habit of eavesdropping on private communications. But the cultural exchange programs, trade negotiations, and diplomatic discussions have been incredibly informative. You've built something remarkable here. Thompson nodded enthusiastically. The level of cooperation between different species is amazing. Back home, we're still working on getting everyone to agree on what constitutes a proper pizza topping. Pizza? QX-12 asked. It's a food, Sarah explained. Flat bread with various toppings. Humans have very strong opinions about what belongs on pizza, and the debates can get quite heated. You fight wars over food preparation? Vex 9000 asked, horrified. Oh no, nothing that serious. Just passionate discussions. Although there was that one incident with the pineapple protesters, she shook her head. Never mind. The point is, you've managed to create a stable interspecies alliance that spans multiple star systems. That's impressive. That's impressive. It's taken centuries. Vex 9000 said proudly. Many wars, many mistakes, but we've learned to work together. And now you're stuck with us, Sarah said cheerfully. The loud, enthusiastic neighbors with the really big ship who brought too much food and want to be friends with everyone. Stuck with you? Well, we're not leaving anytime soon. Earth has decided that space is pretty cool, and we want to be part of the galactic community. We've got a lot to learn, but we're fast learners, and we're willing to work for it. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. We'd like to propose a formal cultural exchange program. We can offer our technology, our knowledge, and our friendship. In return, we'd like to learn about your civilizations, your histories, and your cultures. We think there's a lot we can teach each other. What kind of technology? Asked Thompson, his engineering instincts clearly kicking in. Well, we've made some improvements to faster-than-light travel. We've developed some interesting manufacturing techniques, and our medical technology is pretty advanced. We've also got some new approaches to energy generation and storage that might interest you. And in return, knowledge, friendship, and maybe some good restaurant recommendations. We're still working on our diplomatic protocols, but we're hoping to make this as mutually beneficial as possible. Vex 9000 looked at his crew, seeing his own thoughts reflected in their expressions. The humans were clearly powerful, probably more powerful than anyone in the sector, but they seemed genuinely interested in cooperation rather than domination. Captain Martinez, he said slowly, I think I speak for all of us when I say that we're very interested in your proposal. However, decisions of this magnitude require approval from our respective governments. Of course, Sarah nodded. We're not expecting immediate answers. Take all the time you need. We'll be hanging around the system for a while, getting to know the neighborhood. Maybe we can help with that diplomatic conference on Kepler-4. We've got some experience with interspecies negotiations. You do? Well, not with aliens, obviously. But humans come in a lot of different varieties, and we've gotten pretty good at finding common ground. Plus, we brought really good food. As if to emphasize the point, the basket Thompson was holding emitted another wave of delicious aromas. Vex 9000's stomachs growled audibly. Perhaps, he said diplomatically, we could continue this discussion over dinner? I believe you mentioned something about restaurants? Sarah's grin widened. Admiral, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Later, as Vex 9000 watched the human shuttle return to the massive overkill, he reflected on the day's events. The humans were certainly unusual, powerful beyond measure, yet friendly and approachable, technologically advanced, yet refreshingly unpretentious. They had essentially announced their presence by parking the equivalent of a mobile fortress in the middle of civilized space, then asked if anyone wanted to be friends. It was either the most sophisticated diplomatic strategy he'd ever encountered, or the most honest. Sir, Calaprime said, interrupting his thoughts, what do you think will happen now? Vex 9000 watched the overkill slowly turn toward Kepler-4, where 43 species were about to get the surprise of their lives. I think, he said slowly, the galaxy just got a lot more interesting. And possibly a lot safer, assuming we can keep the humans fed and entertained. And if we can't, he looked at the massive human ship, its impossible size a constant reminder of what this species was capable of when they put their minds to something. Then I suggest we learn to make really good pizza. As the silent observer prepared to escort humanity's first diplomatic mission to the Kepler system, Vex 9000 couldn't help but smile. The humans had arrived with the biggest ship anyone had ever seen, weapons that could crack moons and gift baskets full of homemade cookies. If that wasn't the most human thing imaginable, he didn't know what was. And somehow, despite all logic and reason, he was looking forward to seeing what they did next.